Hello everyone and welcome to this session. We are going to talk about export and import on-prem Citrix site configuration scripts. I am Steven Lemonier. As you can heard, I'm a French speaker. I'm Citrix certified expert and co-leader of Suite 2GC Romandie, which is the French part of the Switzerland. I'm currently working in Geneva. I have 10 plus years of experience with CVAD and ADC ADM. As you already guessed, I love automation and PowerShell. During this session, we are going to talk about the migration and how to automate the process with PowerShell script and Citrix SDK to finally end with some scripts demo. Okay, about the CVAD migration paths, every Citrix users and experts have experienced a site migration in their career. All the steps are well documented by Citrix on their website, and as you can see on the schema on the right, there is a lot to do and every component of the infrastructure is impacted. The license server, the storefront, director, controllers, and so on. And it means you'll have to back up your database and do snapshot prior to run the upgrade, no matter it's in dev or in production, and run some tests afterwards to validate everything run smoothly. The feedback shared by the community on Reddit, Twitter, Slack, and forums is one of these. It's always fine if you have a dev. It's similar with your prod, and both have been upgraded successfully. Or maybe you don't have any dev environment and you went live in production right away and it worked. Or the feedback might be, I always had something that went wrong during an upgrade. Maybe dev is okay, but prod is not. And because of a tiny little detail that does not exist in dev, and it may not be particularly linked to Citrix. It could be your antivirus, third-party tool, some GPO, or an undocumented settings that has been set on your delivery controllers. And with Murphy's Law waiting for the first error to happen before starting what could be felt like the end of the world, it can escalate quickly to a stressful situation, like the database restore fails, or one VM snapshot is missed, and it's not maybe you, maybe it's up to another team to proceed such task, and you have to rely on them, like in a big company, and one of the team has failed in their process. And in the end, your upgrade failed and you cannot restore, and it's a bad situation. Or the last one, it's okay most of the time, but your upgrade is fine, your test as well, and the time has passed. And after a while, someone comes to your desk and say, hey, and I'm sure you already have heard this. Then the migration, this QR code reader, for instance, is not working anymore. I swear it worked before. Or it can be even worse. I swear we didn't change anything and suddenly it doesn't work anymore. And if you have a CMDB, maybe you wrote what you have done in the past few weeks and the only thing that has changed in your infrastructure is your upgrade. And of course, during your test, you did not think about these 2 or 3 users with a QR code reader. And one of the rules I apply now in my work is everybody lies, and it cannot be related to my upgrade. Can't be. It's something else. Maybe the QR code reader has changed, or the user's profile has changed during the past. But with my in-place upgrade, I cannot be sure about this. And now we cannot compare with the previous version to ensure it is not related with the upgrade. But still, maybe we have our backups. Are we ready to revert the entire upgrade to the previous version to just check if the issue is really related to our migration? Or can you? If you run your test properly and the time has passed, it makes sense to have deleted all the backups and cannot revert to the previous version. And in that case, to reproduce the issue, you might start to think, I might need to install a new site with the previous version. Just to check, just to be sure. And this kind of feedback are good reason to think about another way to proceed and upgrade. Migrating to a brand new site installed in parallel with your current one instead of migrating your current site. And this helps you to start fresh, and you are able to check in your installation procedure if this setting is still needed, or use the opportunity to enable SSL communication between your storefront servers and your delivery controllers, or even migrate to a new server OS like Windows Server 2022 released a couple of weeks ago. And you can even use this new site to train your coworker in a safe environment that you can wipe after if you need to do so. And now you have created your new site, you can now migrate no matter when, during weekend, during working hours of usual weekdays, just by reconfiguring your VDA to your new site. And this task can be even more easily if you use, and actually you should use, provisioning mechanism. And all of this without touching your previous installation and being able to compare in case of an issue, or even do benchmark and check the performances of your new infrastructure and help with your troubleshooting, as well as revert as easy as you have migrated to the new version. Okay, but I have hundreds of published applications. I won't publish them one by one, and you're totally right. But PowerShell and Citrix SDK are here to help us in this journey. These are some of the use cases for the scripts I'm about to share with you. Of course, migrate to a new version, current release, or LTSR with ease, create a dev environment to train your coworker on an exact copy of your production, test newer version or do a POC of a feature without impacting your production environment, and validate your procedure if you're not in charge of the prod environment and have to provide documentation to another team to run this upgrade. Let's talk a bit about the Citrix Automated Configuration Tool provided by Citrix. It is available as a POC on their website. But what does mean a POC for Citrix? I really don't know. Maybe it's buggy, so use it carefully, or we won't provide any support with it. And when I tried to use this tool, actually it did not work. It froze my PowerShell console right away, and I didn't know what happened and got any error. So be careful with this one. And the tool exports on-prem configuration, but only to import in the cloud. And users that are stuck on-prem, like myself, we feel sometimes be forgotten by Citrix. So I have to rewrite the import script. So why don't we write the export script as well? Resource to start with this, development of the script. The tools are recommended are Virtual Studio Code, of course, Citrix PowerShell commandlet that are installed along Citrix Studio and Citrix Services SDK. Always use @snapin Citrix star first. We are used to do so. The Citrix SDK for command reference on their website. Google if you don't know with which command to start for creating something like a catalog, a delivery group, or published an application. And maybe the Citrix Studio. When you do anything manually in the Citrix console, a PowerShell tab is available, but sometimes it is hard to understand how to proceed because Citrix adds a lot of things for logging and other stuff, making it a bit hard to pick up the right thing from this output, to know what to do and which command to use. Let's start to export an administrator. From the SDK and with PowerShell in general, a command starts with what you want to do. I want to get information about this object. I want to create a new one. I want to set properties on this object or remove it. Let's say it's the operation. Then you have a dash and a first word. In this case, it's admin because it's referencing on what category of object I want to work with. I want to work with administration of my Citrix site, so let's pick admin, but broker also exists. For instance, if you want to publish an application, create a catalog, or create a delivery group. And then we have the object. Here it's the administrator. So get admin administrator is a good point to start exporting our admin, right? But the property available, if we have a look on the screenshot, are limited only to the administrator itself. We have the status, enable or not, an admin name, an Active Directory name, which is a group or a user, and the SID. But if you're familiar with the Add Administrator wizard, scopes, like on what object the administrator could work, and roles, what the administrator can do on this object, are missing. And this is a caveat of the SDK. You have related operation, new admin, set admin, remove admin, a reference to another command for metadata, but nothing related to what you are probably interested to do then after exporting an administrator. Like, I want to export now the scopes and the roles. And this becomes tricky with more complicated objects like catalogs and delivery group, as we will see right after. Now we know how to construct a command. If I want to get a role, maybe get-admin role is available, and it is, actually, as well as get-admin scope. And for the sake of our minds, it is smartly named, and we can use get-admin role and get-admin scope to export all the settings related to our administrators. Let's do another example with creating a delivery group manually. On the Citrix SDK, everything related to publishing a resource, as I said, a catalog, an application, or a delivery group, and all the related properties you might want to use are listed under the broker category. For administration, it's under delegated admin. So let's use a broker, and we know how to construct our command. So let's search for a new broker. Okay, here we have a lot of commands, and if you played a bit with PowerShell and Citrix, you know a delivery group is actually called a desktop group. So let's find new broker desktop group. Here we have. On the page, we can see a syntax, a detailed description of the commands, the related commands, the get, set, rename, remove, and some other related commands. All the parameters you can use with this command, the name, the description, and if they are required or not. And you have, at the bottom of the page, an example. So let's try to create a new broker desktop group with only the required parameter. Okay. New broker desktop group -name Converge 2021 desktop kind, let's say private. Okay. go to my studio, in my delivery group. Here it is. Let's edit the property. And right away, you get an error saying the user configuration has been manually modified and cannot be changed by Studio, meaning I have created my delivery group in PowerShell and I can only edit it in PowerShell until all the necessary properties are set. And from the other menu, the access policy is in the same state. But if I have a look on the parameter, there is absolutely nothing related to users or to access policy, as you can see here. Nothing users, nothing about access policy. And in the related command, there is nothing about it. To currently create some object with Citrix, here I'll share the related command and object I feel like they are more relevant than the one on the SDK. To create a catalog, you need the account identity pool, which is the naming scheme of your VM and where to store the account in Active Directory. The prof scheme, which is the sizing of your VM, CPU, RAM, as well as the snapshot to use as a golden image. For delivery group, you have entitlement policy rule and app entitlement policy rule, which are who is able to access the desktop or the published application, power time scheme for single session OS, access policy rule to allow to use the resources through the Netscaler or not, and the reboot schedule v2 for multi-session OS. And for applications, you have new broker application and configured FTA for file type associations. Now that we know some relevant commands to use to create our object, let's export our configuration from our production environment. Here I'm on my production environment. I have some delivery groups already configured. I have a lot of application already published, as you can see, and I have some custom administrators, scopes, roles, and accounts. To export this configuration, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Just execute the export citrixsite.ps1 scripts. It will enumerate some properties of your site, the tags, the administrators, everything related to your catalogs, your delivery groups, as well as your published application. Depending on how much object you have in a category, it will take a bit longer, but the execution of the script is pretty straightforward. When it's done, you get as output 2 files and a folder. The log file is actually a PowerShell transcript of your PowerShell console. The export.xml file that contains all your configuration that you just exported, and you can take a look right here. And in the resource folder, you have some text document corresponding to the icon exported. Actually, in the Citrix console, each icon is encoded at the base 64 format, and it's pretty easy to export it. You just export it as a string, and when you import it back to your console, it will create your icon. To import in your new site, just use the resource folder and the export XML and paste it on your new delivery controller. Now let's do an import of our configuration on a brand new Citrix site. It requires some prerequisites first. The Citrix site needs to be set up, the database and the license server, prior to execute the scripts. Hosting needs to be configured to know where to store and to host your virtual machines. If the resources are named differently, because you want to change your storage or your network, you should amend the export.xml file. And the snapshot path for your golden image should not have changed. If it has changed, you have to amend the export file as well. I will show you in the demo. Here I'm on my dev environment. My delivery group is not configured. My application, no application are published, but the site is configured and my hosting as well. I decided for the demo to use the theme resources as my production, but if you want to use another one and change the name in the resource, you should open your XML file and go to hosting unit name property from your provisioning scheme and change it. Align this configuration, these settings with your configuration. And regarding the master image VM, this is the full path of your snapshot. For instance, if I have deleted this snapshot, which is the father of the one I want to use, 2309-2021, and I have deleted it, MCS will try to find the full path, and when it will fail to find this snapshot, the command will throw you an error. So please review both hosting unit name and master image VM to align it with the new environment or your new configuration before doing an import. Now let's go. Let's do an import. For this demo, I will use a clean export XML, which are only a couple of delivery groups, catalogs, and some application, because I don't need to re-import everything for this demo. And do not forget the resource folders to get back your icon. When you execute it, as you can see, when an object already exists, it won't be modified, and then it will create all the stuff. Okay, perfect. Sometimes the provisioning scheme, right here, this tape, it already exists in my case. Sorry, it already exists in my case, but if it doesn't, this part, the script may look like it has froze, but actually it's not. You just take a look on your virtualization platform and you will see that the MCS is performing all the tasks, like cloning the VM and starting the template and so on to create your catalogs. In my case, it was done at a glance, but in your case, and depending on how much provisioning scheme you have to create, it may take a really long time, depending on your storage speed, for instance. If I go to my Citrix site, my delivery group have been created successfully. If I go to my application, they all have been created, and as you can see, my icons have been recovered properly. Okay, let's go back to the presentation now. Now we have done the import, let's check about what the import doesn't do. As you can see, it doesn't do hosting, and it doesn't export policies yet, because I think it's pretty easy to export and re-import in a new site. It doesn't provision VM, of course, because I don't want to create 1000 VM on your hosting while your whole Citrix site has already 1000 VM running, so I don't want to crash your production environment. And if an object with the same name already exists, it won't be modified by the script. For now, it's only validated with MCS, and PBS it's ongoing, and it doesn't do any cloud yet. If you find the scripts useful, they are available on GitHub. Download and use it, give me feedback. Feel free to modify them to fit your need and add any feature. And don't forget to submit a pull request to allow the community to get benefits from your changes. Open an issue if you'd rather let me script the new feature for you. I will be pleased to help you with it, and share the scripts. Okay, If you have any questions, remember I am available on the chat of this session in the bottom right corner. And for those who are watching this session as a replay, or if you have any question afterwards, you can reach me on these social networks, Twitter and LinkedIn, as well as my websites. Thank you to all of you for attending this session. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be pleased to receive any feedback. Be safe and have a nice day. Bye!